June 2024. A satellite passes over Akhtubinsk Airbase, nearly 600 kilometers behind the front line. Parked in the open, uncovered, sits a Su-57, the fifth-generation fighter Russia built to answer the F-22. On the next pass, there are scorch marks across its tail. A cheap drone had found the most advanced aircraft the country makes. For a lot of people, that image closed the case. Too few built, too easily caught. A radar signature that Sukhoi's own patent concedes is orders of magnitude larger than an F-35's. A stealth fighter that isn't stealthy. But almost every flaw on that list was not an accident. It was a choice. And those choices describe a completely different idea of what this jet was ever meant to do. Here is the case against the Felon, and most of it holds up. Sukhoi's own patent filing, the one that surfaced in defense reporting, concedes a radar cross-section that the National Security Journal read as something close to 1,000 times that of the F-35. Independent estimates put the frontal return somewhere between 0.1 and 1 square meter, the range of a clean Super Hornet, not a stealth jet. By early 2026, aggregated delivery data showed only around 30 airframes in service, against a state order of 76, signed back in 2019. And in June of 2024, a handful of cheap drones reached Akhtubinsk and scorched at least one of them where it sat. Line those facts up, and the verdict writes itself. The Su-57 is a fifth-generation fighter that isn't very stealthy and isn't built in real numbers. It couldn't even sit safely on its own ramp. The verdict is fair. The framing is wrong. Every one of those numbers quietly assumes the Felon was trying to be an F-22 and missing. It wasn't. It helps to remember where the airframe came from. The program that became the Su-57 began in the early 2000s as Russia's answer to the Raptor, but it inherited the instincts of the Su-27 flanker, a jet built in the Cold War to outturn anything NATO could put in front of it. The Felon never abandoned that inheritance. It tried to bolt stealth onto it. So, start with the flaw everyone names first: the stealth. On stealth, the jet genuinely trails, and the people who follow it closely will be the first to say so. The Aviation Geek Club put the gap in plain terms. Against the right radar, the Su-57 can be picked up at 6 to 10 times the range of an F-22 or F-35. Some of that is shape. The American jets are assembled from hard, faceted surfaces that bounce radar off in directions the emitter never hears back from. The Felon keeps the smooth, blended contours of the flanker it descends from, and it adds movable leading-edge surfaces that sharpen its turn while adding to its radar return. The louder problem is the engines. On the F-22 and F-35, the air inlets curve inward in an S shape, so radar can never see straight down the throat to the spinning compressor face, one of the brightest reflectors on any aircraft. The Su-57 does not fully bury its engines that way. According to design analyses of the airframe, the inlet ducts are coated with radar-absorbing material, a radial grille sits inside the intake, and a slanted blocker is mounted just ahead of the first row of compressor blades, set back from the lip at roughly 7/10 to 1 1/4 times the diameter of the duct. It hides most of the engine face. Most, not all. So why not just build the S-duct and close the case? Because a deeply buried engine carries a cost the spec sheet never prints. The long curved inlet eats internal volume, and it disturbs airflow at the worst possible moment, when the nose is cranked far off the flight path and the jet is dragging itself through a hard, slow turn. The spaced engine pods, the same ones that hurt the radar signature, buy two things back. They open up the fuselage between the engines for internal weapons, and they give the jet short, wide, structurally stiff engine mounts, the kind that can carry heavy thrust vectoring hardware and take the loads of violent maneuvering without flexing. Picture the difference between a long drinking straw and a short length of steel pipe. One folds the instant you lean on it. The other doesn't. Those internal bays aren't a footnote either. Burying the weapons is half of what makes any stealth jet stealthy, because a missile hung under a wing is a near-perfect radar reflector. The Su-57 needed that volume, and the spread engines are part of how it found it. So the trade comes down to a single sentence. Sukhoi spent stealth to protect the turn. And the turn is where this design stops apologizing. The Felon's nozzles don't only push backward, They swivel in 3 dimensions, and the jet can hold controlled flight at angles of attack and airspeeds where a conventional fighter would depart and tumble out of the sky. Sukhoi's chief test pilot, Sergei Bogdan, named a hero of Russia, described the point of it without much modesty. The aircraft, he said, can execute maneuvers at near-zero speeds, extreme angles of attack, and spins, and those capabilities can provide a significant edge in aerial combat. Underneath the airshow theatrics, there's a real tactic. Treat a close fight as a contest over where your nose is pointed. A missile needs its target inside a cone out in front of the launcher, and the faster you can swing your nose onto the other jet or off the line of an incoming shot, the more often you fire first and live. Thrust vectoring lets the Su-57 rotate its nose almost independently of where the jet is actually traveling, the way a skater can spin to face any direction without changing the line they're gliding along. Russian pilots show it off as the Cobra, the jet rearing back until it's nearly flying belly first into the wind, bleeding speed while the nose keeps tracking. In a merge, that becomes a shot the other pilot didn't believe was possible yet. Be honest about the catch, because the fact-checkers will be. Hauling the nose around that hard bleeds energy fast, and a jet that has spent its speed is a slow exposed target if the kill doesn't land. Critics call post-stall maneuvering a parlor trick for exactly that reason. The honest counter is narrower than the fans want it to be. It's one tool, not the whole plan, and a tool the F-22 deliberately limited and the F-35 never carried at all. This is where the two doctrines split in the open. The Soviet engineers who began this lineage assumed something the West designed away from: that missiles miss, that jamming degrades the long shot, and that enough fights collapse into close range where maneuver decides who walks away. American doctrine bet the other direction, that stealth and a first unseen shot would end most engagements before they ever got close. The Raptor is built never to be seen. The Felon is built to win the instant it is. But maneuver only matters if you can find the other jet first, which is the obvious objection. If the Su-57 shows up on radar, why build it to fight at all? The answer is the quietest choice on the airframe, and maybe the sharpest. Stealth is not a cloak of invisibility, it's a frequency trick. Western shaping and coatings are tuned to beat the high-frequency radar bands that fighters and missile seekers use to get a precise, weapons-grade lock. Move down to lower frequencies, longer wavelengths, and that same shaping works a great deal less well. The Felon walks straight into that seam. Alongside the main N036 Bielka radar in its nose, it carries arrays built into the leading edges of its wings that operate in the L-band the longer wavelength stealth shaping struggles to absorb. According to analyses of the N036 suite, those wing arrays pull double duty, handling friend or foe identification and acting as a longer-range detector aimed at low observable targets. Add the 101KS Atoll infrared search and track, which finds the heat of an engine while radiating nothing of its own, and the intent comes clear. All of it feeds one fused picture: radar, infrared, and the wing arrays stitched together. So the jet can, in theory, build a track on the stealth target out of several weak signals that no single sensor could hold alone. The thesis underneath is blunt. You spent a fortune hiding from my high-frequency radar, so I'll carry a lower-frequency one you never optimized against, catch you earlier than you'd like, and use the vectoring and the turn to drag the fight into the range where I'm strongest. Whether it performs that way in combat is unproven, and Russia's marketing around it earns a hard squint. But the logic holds together, none of which excuses where the jet genuinely fell short, because it did, and a fair account has to name it. The Su-57 flying right now is, in a real sense, still unfinished. Its definitive engine, the one designated as Delye 30 and now called the AL-51F-1, was meant to be the core of the program, with serrated nozzle flaps to cut the radar signature, and by Saturn's own figures, a roughly 19% better thrust-to-weight ratio than the interim unit. It is badly late. As of late 2025, it had only reached low-rate production, with full-rate output not expected until 2026, and a separate stopgap engine made its first flight only that December. Until the new power plant ships in quantity, most of the fleet flies on one derived from the Su-57's, The fifth-generation fighter has spent most of its career waiting on its fifth-generation engine. The production picture is worse. By the account in the national interest, Russia delivered few, if any, Su-57's across the whole of 2025, and the in-service fleet sits near 30 jets against that 76 aircraft target for 2027. A stealth fighter you can't mass-produce is a prototype with a press office. It shapes how the jet actually fights, too. Western and Ukrainian sources describe the Felon used mostly in a standoff role, lobbing long-range weapons like the Ki-69 cruise missile from inside Russian airspace rather than pushing into defended skies, which is precisely how you handle an aircraft you have almost none of and cannot replace. And then there's Akhtubinsk, one jet, caught uncovered by cheap drones, 600 kilometers from the front. But look hard at what that strike actually proved. Russia's assessment was careful. The lesson was the vulnerability of Russian airbases, not a failure of the airframe. The jet didn't lose a dogfight. It got hit in a parking lot because no one had built it a roof. So the verdict depends entirely on the question you ask. Ask whether the Su-57 is a good F-22, and it loses on nearly every line of the spec sheet. Stealthier jets exist, in larger numbers with finished engines, but that was never the contest it entered. Hold the price against the Doctrine, and the picture turns over. Russian figures put the Felon somewhere around $35 to $50 million a copy, and F-22 ran closer to $150 million. For roughly a third of the money, on an industrial base squeezed hard by sanctions, Sukhoi chose to buy the things it valued most: the turn, the sensors, and the close-in kill, and to pay for them in the one currency it had decided it could spare, which was all-aspect stealth. You can believe that's the wrong bet. Plenty of serious analysts do, and the production numbers hand them the argument. But it is a bet, placed on purpose, by engineers who knew precisely which corners they were cutting and what those cuts were buying. The exposed engine faces, the higher radar return, the smooth flanker lines, those aren't the fingerprints of a country that tried to build an F-22 and failed. They're the fingerprints of a country that decided not to. Every airframe is an argument about how the next war gets fought. The American argument says you win by never being seen. The Russian argument says you win the moment the shooting starts up close, at a fraction of the cost, and that all-aspect stealth was the first luxury to trade away. The Su-57's flaws are that argument, written in titanium and compromise, which leaves the one question the spec sheet can't settle. When the missiles start missing and the fight gets close, which argument was right?